Hello and welcome to the British Sitcom History Podcast. As always, I'm Gareth and with me is Alan.
Hello.
Hello. And Alan has been to the theatre again, so we're back with another bonus episode from London's fabulous West End.
Yes.
What have you been to see, Alan? Just tell us quickly what we're going to be talking about.
I'm sorry, Prime Minister.
I'm sorry, Prime Minister. Okay, well, we're going to get into this, but it's obviously a spin-off of Yes Minister / Yes Prime Minister. Just before we kick off, I want to point out, if you're listening to us on your usual podcast channels, we are now in video. Apparently, video is the future. So we've always been on YouTube with clips, but now you can tune in and see us talking and feeling quite awkward about it too. So,
we're here. We're here.
Get used to it. Alan, tell us a little bit about. Just let's do the logistics of it first. Where was it? How did you get there? Who did you go with?
Do you know what? There is actually a bit of a story behind that. It's at the Apollo Theatre in the West End currently at the moment, and I bought this ticket when they went on sale like a year ago. And I thought, right, I'm booking this months in advance. I don't have anyone who wants to go to see sitcom-related things with me right now.
So you bought one ticket, or did you buy two and with a sense of optimism?
Well, I bought one ticket, and I just thought, fine, I'll go on my own. And then fast forward months later, I go to the theatre, and I'm outside the theatre 10 minutes before the show starts when I arrive. And I think, right, I'll just pull the old tickets up on the email, and there's 2 tickets there. So I did buy 2 tickets with a sense of optimism and completely forgot about it. And it was too late to do anything about it. Like if I'd found out earlier that day, I could have, rung around people or whatever. But yeah, so a bit annoyed about that. Paid a lot for this ticket.
Yeah,
in the end.
Well, listen, I'm always curious to know, like, how much? What's the sort of face value on a ticket for this sort of thing?
This one, and bear in mind, I was right at the back in the cheapest ticket. I think it was £35, something along those lines.
That's not so bad for London's fabulous West End.
Yeah, well, I think there's a couple of cheaper tickets going right now. So now it's actually on sale and on viewing. I think it's selling quite well, but there's always a few ticket deals going on if you're trying to get a cheapie.
Well, Alan, let's stop being all Yorkshire about it. So tell us a bit more about the play. So obviously it's yes Prime Minister, and is it them in a retirement home? I know it's a sequel, it's many years on, right?
Yes, this is a contemporaneous sequel. It was written a few years ago. It was written by Jonathan Lynn, who was one of the original writers. Anthony J, the other original writer, is dead, so he wasn't involved. Yes. But yeah, this is very much a kind of where are they now, 40 years later vibe. And the central conceit is that Jim Hacker, the former Prime Minister, is now the master of a college. He's a master of an Oxford college called Hacker College. And in fact, he helped set up that college. It's a new one.
Isn't this a little unrealistic? Wasn't he from the LSE? He didn't go to Oxford quite famously within the sitcom.
Well, I think the idea is, the reason there is an Oxford College named after him and that he's the master for life is because he secured the funding that got it. He got a shadowy billionaire to fund it.
Right. Okay.
So that's basically the backstory. And so he's doing this to fluff himself up, isn't he?
Yeah, it's not to help perhaps less privileged kids get into Oxbridge, wherever that is. It's all about his ego.
Yeah, exactly. So the story of the show is that he has helped set this thing up on the idea that he's master for life, and now the student body and faculty are trying to get rid of him.
Yeah.
And as we go along, we find out why they're trying to get rid of him, and it's because he's an old duffer who says things that aren't quite politically correct anymore.
Yes.
And he calls up...
Hang on a minute. Has this Prime Minister gone woke? Oh.
Well, it's interesting you say that because do you know what? Let me answer that when I get into the actual play itself. Let me come back to that because it's definitely something that gets addressed. And so just to finish off the plot, basically Hacker calls up an old ally, Humphrey Appleby, and asks him to come over and help him. And Humphrey himself is also obviously a much older man now and has fallen on harder times himself. for other reasons. So why does he need his old ally back? That's why. And there are two other principal characters in the show. One is essentially the representative of the faculty and students who want to get rid of him, who just comes in and kind of says, "Look, this is what the situation is." But then the other main character is a care worker who is looking after Jim Hacker because he's an older man now and he struggles with a few bits and pieces around the house. And she is a black woman of a slightly more impoverished background and has had to work very hard to get through Oxford and get an education, and is now working as a care worker because she has to help care for her parents and they need the money rather than being able to pursue a career. And that becomes a kind of a part of a very significant part of the show.
Sorry, she's an Oxford graduate, but she's a care worker. Is that what we're saying?
Yes.
Interesting. Okay. Could happen.
Yes. So I'll get into the sort of story a bit. I'm trying not to give too much away because obviously people want to go and see it, but I'll try and set it up properly. But I'll tell you what, I wanted to go talk a little bit about the cast before we.
Yeah, let's do that. So obviously you've told us there's two new characters, but let's focus on our main characters. So we've got Griff Rhys-Jones as Jim Hacker and Clive Francis as Sir Humphrey. And
that's correct.
Most of our listeners will recognise those names, or at least those faces. So let's talk about Griff Rhys-Jones first, because I don't really think of him as a sitcom actor as much as a sketch comedian. Obviously, Smith and Jones. Has he? Do
you know what?
Much sitcom history?
I thought exactly the same thing. I was like, Griff Rhys-Jones. I don't think of Griff Rhys-Jones as an actor, so to speak. Yeah, maybe a comedy actor. And I looked him up. I thought, what's the last thing I saw Griff Rhys-Jones in? Right, apart from TV shows about amazing canals and
3 Men in a Boat is the last thing I saw him in, when he was with Dara O'Brien and I can't remember who else on a canal boat.
Yeah, was it Rory McGrath in that?
It was. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. So I thought, what's the last thing I saw him in as an actor? And I looked through IMDb, like what's the list of things here? The last thing I saw him in acting was a show called Murder on the Blackpool Express.
Right.
Now I don't know if you're familiar with this,
but
it's
I'll tell them more.
I believe Murder on the Blackpool Express was the first one, and they did a few of these, and then they kind of turned it into a series. And it's quite sitcom-y. It's a detective, very light-hearted, borderline comedy detective series.
Like Jonathan Creaky type of thing.
But even more comedy, not even that serious. And the two main stars of it are Sean Gibson and Johnny Vegas.
Okay.
Now, I chanced upon this once and I was like, okay, there's some interesting people involved here. I'm going to watch this. And I watched a few of the specials, and then I kind of went, this is crap. I'm not watching any more of this. And I kind of had to pull back from it because on paper, it was like the sort of thing I would really like. And it just was a bit crap. But anyway, Griff Rhys-Jones is in one of them as a sort of slightly posh, wearing a scarf kind of knob. But anyway, the point is that he's a perfectly fine sitcom comedy actor. I haven't really got an issue with him, but I don't think of him as an actor.
Can we go back to the beginning? So I think of Griff Rhys-Jones as not the 9 o'clock news, and then spinning off into a last Smith and Jones. And that was like when I was growing up in the 80s, Smith and Jones were really part of my sort of comedy childhood. You know, their sketch show was. I don't know if it was quite prime time, but it was certainly the sort of thing we talked about in the playground.
Yeah. And I think, it was a natural kind of progression of not the 9 o'clock news, wasn't it, really? It was kind of that kind of...
You're right, now I'm thinking about it. Like, when that finished, Mel Smith went off and he directed films, didn't he? And then he died quite young. I honestly couldn't tell you what Griff Rhys-Jones has done since then. Does he write? Is he a writer?
I don't know. I bet he's written novels. They all write novels.
They all write really novels, yeah.
I'll tell you what, though. He and Mel Smith, they created Talkback Productions, and so they made the money as the producers throughout the 90s. I think that's
fair enough.
That's where they made.
Yeah, that covers everything.
I don't know if he still does that in a very active way. I mean, he's in his 70s now, but yeah, where does he make his money? I think it's the producing side rather than anything. But he's always been doing stuff and little bits of acting and stuff. But yeah, I don't know.
I feel like I've just spent 5 minutes sort of denigrating his career a little bit. But I've always had a bit of affection for him. I think he's funny. I like him. He's likable.
Yes, he is very likable and not a bad actor. I always sort of saying he's not an actor, but having seen him in this show, perfectly good, not like mind blowing or anything, but perfectly good performance. I have heard a couple of things saying this is essentially stunt casting, where they put a star into a show.
It's not like it's not like they've cast I don't know, Bradley Cooper, is
it? Yeah, I think that's probably a bit of a stretch, but compared to say Clive Francis, who is not a hugely well-known name, but a good solid actor. But I mean, there's a reality here where you need to sell tickets, and if I go and I see Griff Jones, I know that name, it immediately makes you go, "What's this?" And that's just
doing him a disservice. I mean, I haven't seen the performance, but I don't think Griff Jones is the level of stunt casting that was going to sell hundreds of tickets. I really don't. Like I say, I like the guy, but I don't think he's opening a play on the strength of his name.
Yeah, there's a spectrum, I suppose, like everything else, isn't it? But yeah, I think he did a perfectly good job for what it's worth. He's playing kind of 10 years older, and I think he did a nice job with the physicality of that. The point of Hacker is that he's in his 80s and he's just, he needs the stair lift and can't quite tie his shoelaces and things like that. It's not like he's a decrepit old man. He's just all a bit stiff these days. Mm-hmm. And I think he did a really nice job of embodying that. Okay. And then we have Clive Francis.
Well, you just put that poster on screen, and if I said to someone who's Clive Francis, they might not be able to give me a good answer. But oh god, you recognise his face definitely. So what's Clive Francis been in then? Where do we know him from?
I mean, he is just one of those guys who's been around for years. Not like a really obvious, this is his kind of sitcom lineage. I mean, I looked and there's nothing I can point you to and go, that's what it is, him from.
I sort of have in my head, I mean, this is a stupid thing to say. In my head, I have him as the Sir Humphrey type, playing that civil servant or that sort of awkward older person in the office,
I mean, he's in loads of films and stuff. He's in The Clockwork Orange, for example, stuff like that. But like small roles, small parts. Yeah. But he has a fairly notable one-off appearance in Yes, Prime Minister.
Okay, I
can remind you it. I can remind you of it with a clip, Gareth. That's the beauty of this our new technology.
Luke! Yes, Prime Minister. Have you read this? We voted against Israel in the UN last night.
Yes, Prime Minister.
But I gave express instructions that we were to abstain.
I think not, Prime Minister.
I said quite clearly to the Foreign Secretary that I felt very strongly that we should not take sides.
That's quite right. The Foreign Secretary noted your very strong feeling.
But he did nothing about it.
With respect, Prime Minister, he did. He asked our UN ambassador whether we should consider abstaining.
What did the ambassador do?
He said no.
So that character,
he's like just a younger version in that clip of Sir Humphrey. So I can see him playing the character, no problem.
Exactly, yeah. And I think, I'm sure that didn't hurt in the audition, having that to show. But I mean, that's obviously him 40 years ago. So he's a bit younger, but that is, and it's not just he's doing an Appleby kind of vibe. Like that character, the whole point of that character in the episode is that, it's Hacker constantly coming up against these civil service types. So he's doing it perfectly. So yes, that's kind of his sitcom lineage. He does have that connection to Yes, Prime Minister, which is nice. But other than that, he's just a good, solid old trooper. He's 79 now, and he's been treading the board for 60 years. He's actually
Alan. You're an actor, and you've done plays. Like that's hard work, isn't it? Like I know it's only a couple of hours of work a day, but getting out there and the physicality of it, the mental energy required to turn up every night and do that. That's he's doing all right, isn't he?
It is tough for an if you're a bit older as well. Just learning the lines is difficult when you're in your late 70s. But I mean, basically, he absolutely nails it. He's out there and he's doing it. And
have we got? We're going to get to the story in a minute, but are they doing any of the old sort of cliches and tropes from the show?
They kind of hit the kind of the big moments. Like, so there is a moment where Sir Humphrey goes on a big rant, and it kind of makes no sense, and then everyone applauds.
Sort of what I was getting at, yeah. And that like you saying, "Oh, you need to learn the lines," is what made me think of that.
Yeah.
Exactly. Did have those long monologues, didn't he?
Yeah, they did have that moment, and I would say that's pretty much the only thing that is a kind of. Like when I went to see Only Fools and Horses, it's like, okay, we had to have a chandelier falling down. We have to him falling through the bar, all that kind of stuff. I think that's all you've got for Yes Minister. It's just that's the one thing. There was the odd reference to other little things and pulling in some lore, but it was just like offhand kind of history of the characters and things like that, really, rather than anything else. Right. By the way, Clive Francis.
Yes.
Classic Nepo baby. His parents were both actors.
Really?
Yeah, but I just wanted to mention it. They were both just, again, working actors. But his mother, who was Margaret Towner, she has one particular sitcom connection because she was one of the old ladies in Derek.
All right, yeah.
Yeah.
In the old folks' home, yeah.
In Derek, there were all the old people. She was 93 at the time. So she's one of the old ladies in that. So that's his sitcom.
She was an actress. She's been an actress all of her life.
Yeah, I think she'd been long retired, to be honest, and they just like, we need some old people. So yeah,
probably. That's good. All right. Do you want to tell us about the other actors then? So you said that you told us about the two new characters. Who
so them? The two other actors are Stephanie Levi John and William Chubb. And they are essentially primarily stage actors, odd TV credit in here and there. But I have no kind of really fascinatingly interesting background information about them in terms of sitcom history. So
whenever we got to the theatre, you buy a program and it's got the actors' credits, and there'll be like lines and lines and lines of plays. They've been in this at the RSC, they've been in this at the National Theatre, and then TV credits that'll be like one episode of The Bill. But it's a career, isn't it? It's a different career. Just because we haven't seen them on an episode of Ghosts doesn't mean that they haven't had some success.
Yeah, exactly. And like Stephanie Levi John, for example, is relatively young, so probably still creating a career. In fact, as we go along. So that's the cast essentially, as it is on the West End anyway.
You're an actor. What's the equivalent now of The Bill? Everybody used to be in an episode of The Bill. What is it now?
Yeah, that's a good question because, you would get The Casualty and Holby City and stuff like that when they're all these shows.
Is this the problem? Is the problem for young actors? There isn't an equivalent.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what the equivalents are at the moment because TV just isn't quite what it once was.
Can we tell our listeners about... I know viewers indeed. Can we tell our listeners and viewers about your episode of Casualty?
I was in an episode of Casualty. I played a man who had his throat cut in a pub brawl, and I had to go into surgery.
So you were mostly unconscious, weren't you, during your...
I was almost entirely unconscious throughout the whole thing, apart from one part where I had to sort of have a bit of a fit because I was choking on my own blood.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, that's great, mate. That's great. It's all.
I can't even remember if it was Casualty or Holby City. That's how important it was. One of the two.
Sorry, that was a diversion. We were talking about our actors, so no, certainly no sitcom connections there.
Nah, not really. No. But there's nothing wrong with that.
Tell us a little bit about the plot, then, Alan. Obviously, we don't want to spoil the thing, but just give us the sort of as much detail as you can.
Yeah, so as I say, Hacker is the master of a college and they're trying to throw him out and Appleby comes to help him. But the idea is that they haven't spoken for many years and so it's slightly awkward at the beginning and they're not really friends. What's the conceit
as to why Sir Humphrey wants to help him?
So the backstory for Sir Humphrey, I'm not giving too much away here because it's kind of what he's set up as his character, is that now he's much older and he, in order to avoid inheritance tax, he signed everything over to his son, and then his son's the evil daughter-in-law trope, the son's evil wife, basically threw him out of his house, and now he has no power of attorney over his own kind of money and life.
Okay.
And so he is sort of on hard times, so to speak. And so he comes to help Hacker in the kind of hoping that Hacker will then kind of find him a little teaching position or give him some kind of
college.
Yeah, exactly. There is obviously a kind of conclusion to all of that, which I won't give anything away, but there's not a lot to give away, to be honest. My general thoughts about this is it's really more about these two old duffers kind of talking to each other, and then you have the care worker character who is there as a kind of voice of a different generation, but also kind of a voice of reason. And it just through those conversations, it explores a lot of ideas like political correctness, how that's changing, how the structure of politics is changing. We get a mention of Brexit and all this kind of thing. And none of it really gets any kind of in-depth analysis whatsoever. And I suppose that's kind of in keeping with Yes Minister, that it never actually says anything. But
the fact that we don't even know what party he's from sort of tells you a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah. And it just feels like we never quite get anywhere with it. And it's all a little bit pointless. But it's not an unpleasant journey to get there on the way. And also, bear in mind that Jonathan Lynn, who wrote this, is also in his 80s. And there is a sense of this is like life when you're old and the sort of the troubles that come with that. But again, I don't feel like we really analyse that in any great depth.
Well, I think, watching Yes Minister, I watched it a couple of years ago and watched it all back to back. And, there'd always be some, in each episode, there'd be a sort of, political issue that we were tackling. But essentially, it was always about the antagonism and the relationship between these two characters. Is that, how's the antagonism, Alan? How's the antagonism between them? What's the relationship like?
It's gentle. They come back together, and it's clear they're not friends, but they've kind of got this bond forged in battle kind of idea. So they're there for each other, but they're also really mostly focused on their own interests. And I think part of the play is them kind of coming together about that and finding their kind of common ground in some ways. But they're not going at each other in any real way.
Yeah. Well, I think there's one elephant not in the room, which is Bernard. Bernard Woolley was the third character in Yes Minister.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you remember, but I was a bit dismissive of his character. I didn't really think he added much. So do we miss him?
No, it is referenced specifically where he is. He's dead. And essentially the third character, the care worker, who is pretty much in the room the whole time, and then the fourth character kind of comes and goes. She's the third man, so to speak. Yeah. She is the third wheel in that relationship and will occasionally kind of find peace between them or moderate the situation. It's slightly different because she has her own kind of perspective that is outside of their world, and so it is a little bit different, a little bit more proactive, but essentially she's serving the same purpose in the story. In terms of just the play, I think part of it's been getting very kind of middling 3-star reviews, and I think that's very fair. It's a perfectly good show, and if you're a fan of Yes Minister, it's gonna kind of hit those buttons for you. I think the actors do a nice job of embodying those roles without trying to do an impression. I think it's perfectly good. I think it may be slightly lacking the charm of that, or maybe it's just because you're very used to a specific actor playing that character. But I think they do a perfectly good job. But it just kind of says nothing. They do a lot about political correctness and like how Jim Hacker has said this and he got recorded, and like, everything gets recorded these days. There's no such thing as a private conversation. But like when you find out what he said, it's kind of it's not that bad. And it's like the sort of thing, if an 85-year-old said it, you'd go like, yeah, all right, fair enough. I'm not going to get into that.
So is this a bit of Jonathan Lynn old man ranting about walkie-talkies, or
no,
where are we with it? It's not that.
No, it's not. And I think if it was that, at least it would be kind of doing something. I think I would at least have a bit more kind of force, even if you didn't agree with it. And then you've got this character there who is this younger woman and a black woman, and someone who's coming from a completely different perspective of life, and they kind of don't get that. And if the journey is they kind of understand that a bit more, but it's so gentle and it's so delicate, and she never really kind of gets going, and she never becomes this kind of, oh, I'm the mad, liberal woke army kind of thing. It's written as a very sensible and realistic character, but it just feels like it never really says anything, and maybe that's deliberate. But
how long's the play been on? Is it scheduled to run much longer? What do you think?
Yeah, a little bit of history here. This was first produced in 2023 in Cirencester, and it was called, at the time, I think it was called "I'm Sorry, Prime Minister, I Can't Quite Remember." That's kind of the full title, although they obviously decided to trim that down a bit. And so it definitely had a bit of a run at some point, and then that was enough that they went, right, yeah, fair enough, that works, let's stick it on the West End. So, and Clive Francis was in it then, but the rest of the cast were different.
Oh, who was playing Hacker then?
An actor called Chris Bianchi, who I'm not familiar with, and is primarily a stage actor, from what I can tell.
So it is stunt casting then. Poor old Chris Bianchi.
Yeah, well, maybe so.
But it happens, doesn't it? When plays go West End, they're recast. That's normal.
That's it. You need, and yeah, the other actors are recast as well. But Clive Francis has been in this right from the beginning. I wonder if Jonathan Lynn kind of had worked with him and went like, he's my guy. I always had. He's like the young Appleby, and now I can put him in. So that was its original run. Come to the West End last year, and it's running until May this year, I think it is. So it's not long left now. And so it's not a huge run. However, they have already announced they're going to do a post-West End tour. Okay. So it's been selling well, I think. But Griff Rhys-Jones is dropping out. He's not going on tour. Clive Francis is out there. He's taken the work. So who is the new hacker?
Go on.
I'll show you. Let me put a picture up for you. Oh, hang on.
Timing needs to be a bit better on that, Alan.
There we go. So, do you recognise?
Well, I haven't got my glasses on because they were reflecting the spotlight, so I can't see it properly.
So this is a publicity shot for the new tour. This is just announced this last week, actually. The actor who's playing Hacker is Simon Rhys.
Hang on. Don't recognise him, Alan. Don't recognise him. Tell me about Simon
You will
Rhys.
recognise him. Simon Rhys, who largely you will recognise off of The Bill. He was in The Bill for many years in the 90s. And but he has a sitcom connection. I'm going to play you a nice little sitcom clip here of a show we've looked at, and he was in it as a semi-regular character. So let's see if you recognise this.
Now, your father's a dustman. Nice, sociable people, dustmen. They go out with their carts and they clean up after us, just like our mothers. Now, I wouldn't have us a harmless dustman, would I? But dustman's sons are different.
I don't remember him from Brad. But I recognise his face now. I do remember him from The Bill. He was the big governor, wasn't he? He was like the, I don't know, chief super or whatever rank it was.
He was in it for so long. I think he got promoted about 4 times. But yeah, in Bread, he was.
Show us a picture of him again now. Now I know who he is. Let me have a look.
He was so like in Bread. There's a sort of semi-regular character. These couple of gangsters, local gangsters, who kind of hassle people. But I mean, he's 40 years old now. So, he looks
totally different.
He's in his 70s.
Now I know it's him. I can't see it, but yeah. Anyway, how old is he then?
I'm not sure, actually. In his 70s, though, certainly. Seems to be about right. I think he's got a right look for it and everything. It looks all right.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So it's touring at a theatre near you. So
well, potentially. I don't know.
Would you recommend our I'm going to start saying it. Our viewers go and see this.
If you like, Yes, Minister, Yes, Prime Minister, it's worth seeing. Just kind of, this is a absolutely 100% canon continuation of that story, and where are they now? So it's interesting just for that. How are they translating that? And it's a perfectly good show, if not great.
One thing that I was thinking about earlier when you were talking about the black care worker, it's Alf Garnett's later years, isn't it? It's in Sickness and in Health.
It is. I can guarantee you, it is not as combative as that, and certainly don't say anything that could possibly get you cancelled in any way whatsoever. Like, not even as a character who is getting cancelled, even he hasn't said anything that would really get him cancelled. So it's a very delicate.
Yeah, like you said, it's getting sort of middling reviews. So it's obviously not setting the world on fire, but the fact they're touring it shows it must be selling tickets. So I think, if you're watching this video, you're a sitcom fan, you're a nostalgia fan. So I think it's probably I think we should give it a recommend. You should go and see this.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's worth.
I'm planning to go see it when it comes up to Yorkshire.
Yeah. Yes, and I'm not sure if they've announced dates and locations and stuff. They just announced a new casting, so look it up in your own time and see what you can do.
Okay, have we anything else to add before we wrap up, Alan?
No, we've got a new series, new episodes coming soon. It's all in the works.
Starting in the 1970s, so we'll let you know as soon as possible what our first episode is going to be, so that you can bone up and do your research before you listen to us talk about it. But I hope you've enjoyed this little bonus episode. Thank you, Alan, for going and sitting in those uncomfortable seats. And we'll see.
I had two seats I could spread out.
yeah, you put your coat up on the other. Yeah. We'll see you all soon, and hopefully you've enjoyed seeing us too. And keep your eyes peeled for our new series. Bye.
Bye-bye.